Welcome to the Tommy Sandhu podcast with Nina Wadia. Nina, I mean, come on, she's a force. Nina's been in the British Asian comedy scene as an actress as well for many years. We've seen her in movies from Bollywood to Hollywood, on stage, recently on Strictly Come Dancing. And through doing Strictly, we got to see her, and we got to see where she's at as a person. She recently went on to another game show and she won a load of money for a charity as well. And I guess Nina's been a big influence in my life, along with many other British Asian comedians. So I wanted to get her on because she also is someone who quite clearly wears her heart on her sleeve. She's an actress, she's emotional, and she shares those emotions. And I guess I want to be more open with where I stand on things and stand on matters and dealing with my own voices in my head. And here is someone I thought, well, she's very open, and I just knew we were going to have a great chat. And we do. We talk about it all. We talk about the business. We talk about what it's like going for auditions, the roles, her as a mum, juggling her workload. It's a superb chat. It's a real insight into how she's just a regular person, but yet living this kind of famous life and on our tellies and on our screens. So I hope you enjoy this. This is the brilliant and inspirational Nina Wadia. Nina Wadia, Nina, tere varga koi hoina. How are you?
How are you? My God, it's been the longest time ever.
I know, but if it's okay for us because we get to kind of see what you're up to. We get to keep up to date with our kind of Wadia reports. It's all right. we know what you've been up to. Have you been all right? You okay? Firstly, the break, Christmas. Do you get holiday, or is it all so busy?
Do you know, most years I don't, and this year I did, and it was a particularly special year. We've got our first ever pet, which is a little puppy, and my kids have been asking me for years and years and years, and I finally gave in. I think they just wore me down. I think they just I literally got to the point where they got me in a weak moment one day, and I just went, oh, fine, I don't care anymore, just have a pet. And they held me to it for the next few months. It was like, you said.
Lots of questions straight away. We're going to break this down because same issue in my house. We took my son, who's 9 now, to the Bend, back to the village when he was 18 months old, Nina. He's now 9, and he's banging on about a pet, a dog mainly, for all that time. I'm talking every week, every month. And I've said no, because I think it's going to fall on me. I think it's going to fall on me to look after the dog. So I said, listen, and I don't want a pet just to be the kutta in the corner. I want the pet to be, I would really love it. I really do love animals, but I'm worried about my time, whether I can commit to it. I've got commitment issues. Why did you say no all that time? Why were you putting it off?
Same reason. I didn't want the dog to be alone at home. The kids are at school. My husband was working in central London, and I was sort of traveling everywhere for my work. And I didn't think it'd be fair on the dog. Yeah. Then pandemic hit, and we basically built a home studio in the back of the garden. So we've got like that. My husband can do his composing from home, which meant he didn't have to travel into town all the time. So that was the first thing my kids picked up on. You always said if there was no one near home, well, now dad works from home. So now you don't have an excuse. They're so clever, mind you. They just were waiting for any excuse. But I'll tell you what, yes, there's good and there's bad, but the good so far outweighs the bad. I cannot tell you. And I'm not even an animal person. I didn't start off as an animal person. Growing up in India, it's like, no, you don't want to bring a dog in the house. Oh, it's just germs and dirt and bacteria and blah, blah, blah. So it's changed our lives as a family. He brings you really close together. Yes, by the way, you will end up doing all the work for it. It will be your job. It'll be your wife's job. It will not be the job of the children, because they will say everything, but they'll only want to come for cuddles, and then that's kind of it. Having said that, after you go through that first sort of period of the kids kind of go, oh gosh, we didn't realize how much work it is, they then kind of muck in, they then start to join in, and then it just transforms your lives. There's a thing that happens where, once your kid hits teenage years, it's a different story. Your kids are like aliens as far as I'm concerned when they hit the teenage years. Oh, by the way, just to make it clear, the pandemic is entirely my fault.
Yes. We knew that.
The strictest, most cruelest mother in the world. And honestly, like anything that you think of that is just the most ridiculous thing, it falls on me. But So what the dog has done is it allows for a conversation to happen again with teenagers, which is very rare because they're relaxed around the dog. He's lying with us, you know, and they start to open up and talk. And it's really interesting. I've spoken to a friend of mine. She's a child psychologist, and she said having a pet in the house, especially a dog, because unlike cats, you don't have to coax them to come to you. They just come to you and they give you so much love, you know. It does make a huge difference. Your family kind of relaxes again, and the house isn't so tense because teenagers make a house tense.
Yeah. How old are yours? How old are your kids now?
So my son is 14, and my daughter's just turned 18, which is incredible because she now drives into school and back. So yes.
Oh wow, you got a school run chauffeur. That's what it is.
I
Like
really do.
well, but okay, so you really did hold off from them having kids. But this is where you hear about dogs being like, you know, good for therapy. They say, you know, they take dogs into hospitals. So we're looking into certain dogs, and you know, my son wants a certain dog, but I want a dog. I don't want an aggressive dog. I don't want you know, the pit bulls, Rottweilers, and all that. And I don't know what you've got. I'll come there, but there's like certain dogs that are particularly good with families and children. What did you go with?
We ended up with a cockapoo because we weighed up all the goods and bads, and the cockapoo, for a first-time pet for a family, they've got all the qualities you look for, which is the kind of they are very cuddly. They love walks, but not excessive walks. They're not aggressive. They're proper family dogs. And ours is particularly fluffy for some reason. I'm sure once his coat grows in, it won't be. But thus far, he's very fluffy.
So you've almost taken the arranged marriage approach to getting a dog. Like, listen, I need someone that's gonna fit the family. You know, it's gonna be cuddly, not too aggressive, but yet, you know, it's still a dog. Still will bark if someone comes. He'll protect me, but he won't, you know, over empower me. You know, it's kind of an accompaniment.
Tommy, I gotta tell you, you've got a website right there. Quickly, patent, just grab it. I mean, can you imagine, you know, let's find that dog for your family. Let's arrange it. Do it.
Arranged doggy. I don't know what it is.
Arrangedoggy.com. Quick, grab it.
Right. Okay. Done. That's so nice. And again, we've had cockapoos stay with us and labradoodles as well, which were also
labradoodles are gorgeous too. Yeah, but they're very bouncy.
Yeah, and slightly bigger as well. And that's I think I want a kind of significant dog as well. But the molting thing as well and all that. It's all the same things. It's so funny that you're picking them all that. Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, I'm going to dive straight in here because I know it's been a busy year for you, and I know it's been an emotional year for you, and we've seen that play out. And sadly, the business that we're in, all your emotions are out, which is great. And I'm not afraid of that anymore. I used to personally, there would be the front, the persona, that everything's great persona and hilarious, and my world's a laugh and a joke, to now kind of going, my world is a laugh and a joke, but it's also quite tough sometimes. And we've seen that, I suppose, particularly with you, which is probably why I wanted to get you on now like this.
Sure.
Can I just, on the dog element, how much has the dog helped you? Has it, and having
hugely,
like you could,
hugely. Okay, so I just turned 53. And you know, it's like, it's funny when people kind of go, oh, what's your age? And I say my age, people go, oh, you don't mind then? I'm going, it's not like I can hide it, is it? It's not like I can suddenly go, actually, I'm only 28. It doesn't work like that. So I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, and I've always lived my life in the way that I would hope people would respect, and I, you know, would kind of go, okay, right, this is what we're going through. And what's interesting is I've had friends that I grew up with in Hong Kong, one actually from India, who I've known since we were 3 years old. But most of my friends are my friends from people I've known since I was 11 and grew up in Hong Kong. And we've all had our families. Some have got divorced, some have not had children, some have had children that have run off. There's like, I mean, honestly, the soap opera is just literally our lives anyway. But what's really great is knowing someone from when you were about 10 and 11 years old, is that you can be so honest. You can be so real about what you're going through and not feel like you're being judged, because all of us have been through something so incredibly emotional, so incredibly hard. I remember, you know, when sort of 4 years ago, when my son got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, it was like our world at that moment fell apart. You know, like because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to cope with it. And the truth of the matter is that actually, when the diagnosis happened, I wanted to run away. I was terrified. I thought I'd done something to him. I thought I'd ruined my child, you know, because I didn't know anything about type 1. I didn't realize that it's just one of those, they don't know how you get it. They think my son, it was virally induced. He'd got the novovirus in the December of the year before, and that had just got into his gut and wouldn't leave his gut and basically killed off his pancreas. And that's how he ended up with type 1, because we don't have type 1 in the family. So it couldn't have been genetic. It wasn't hereditary. So we thought, well, we go back to the virus. And now they've realized, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, actually, Tommy, this is very interesting. Since the pandemic, more people, more children in particular, have been diagnosed with type 1 than ever before. So people are realizing that the virus, whatever the virus is, can induce type 1, you know, in people. So it's like, oh, it was a bit of a wake-up call. And, you know, it was actually my husband. The credit goes to him, because I wanted to, like I said, run away. He's very practical, my husband. He's the opposite to me. I'm very kind of emotional and out there, and he's very chilled. He's very calm. He's very laid back. And he just goes, okay, this is the problem, then this is the solution. He's just one of those people, which kind of irritates me sometimes, because I'm just like, what do I do now? And I was sobbing, absolutely sobbing. And I said, why has this happened to us and to our family? And in fact, that's what my son would say, go, why us, mum? You know, like, are we bad people? Because he associated at the age of 10, so you get ill or something bad happens to you if you're not, you know, a good person, which is a very, I guess that's just a child's naive way of thinking. But inside,
it's also a very,
it's like
also a very desi way of thinking, because it's kind of like, nazar lagi, oh, you know, something, you know, something like that. So it's funny that he naturally went that way with his logic. That's interesting.
And it was very upsetting and shocking, you know, because we were just happily going along, the four of us, minding our own business, and suddenly this came our way. And so it was my husband who actually said, okay, you want an answer as to why this has happened to us as a family? He says, it's happened to us because we're going to do something about it. He said, we are going to find the cure for type 1. We will raise so much money. We will, you know, do every kind of fundraising project out there. We will find the cure, and we will solve this issue for everyone who is suffering with type 1. And I thought, what a way to look at it.
Wow.
We turned this massive negative into such a positive. And that's what then spurred me on. That's what then made me go, okay, that gives me a purpose. I've always lived like that. I've always thought that there is a reason why I need to do everything that I do in my life. Every job, even Tommy, like, I'm hoping someday to write my autobiography. And every job I've ever done, I've noticed has been for a different reason to doing the job. To give you another example, Namaste London, the one Bollywood film I did. I never wanted to do Bollywood, but this was, you know, kind of interesting to me. I got to play Rishi Kapoor's wife. My, you know, dad knew Rishi Kapoor from working in the airlines for many years. And I went in to do this one job. It was a very difficult job, lots of ups and downs, just as a woman in India. But what was interesting is at the very end of the job, we basically came across a Sandhu of some kind, a very spiritual man. And, you know, we started talking at the airport. And he said to me, he says, so he knew nothing about me, by the way. We just were talking. And I told him I was an actor and that I'd come out to India to do this project. And he had this big smile on his face. And I was like, why are you smiling like that? And he said, do you think you came to India to make a movie? I said, yes. He said, no, you came to India to go on a pilgrimage. And I said, what do you mean? And he then told me everywhere I had been on the shoot. Like, we dipped ourselves in the Ganges. We'd been to Khwaja Garib Nawaz's Dargah. We'd gone to the Himalayan mountains to put our heads down. There was a shivling there or something. Like, it was, I mean, I'm Parsi, I'm a Zoroastrian, but I respect all religions. And the fact that he even said those words and he knew where I'd gone, and then he walks off. And I was just like, oh my word. it only happens in India.
Right, but come on, we live in the Western world, right? So we're in the cynical world of entertainment and TV and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, producers, and, you know, we know how things are constructed. What goes on in your mind when something quite mysterious and magical and a bit Holy crap! What was that? What is that about? What? I mean, can you, if you stop, take a moment and stop and actually process that? That's some freaky stuff, Nina.
That is, but I've had that my whole life. I have grown up with that my whole life. My parents, like, you know, like, I mean, there's a friend of ours who had, and this is so bizarre. We'd gone to an ashram in India where we met Lulu. Lulu goes to this ashram in India. It's like, and my dad had gone because one of his friends who used to work in the airlines gave up his life and decided to work in an ashram. He just decided that was what he wanted to do. He wanted to do seva. And he took us out as a family. And I was maybe about 14 then. And I remember being in this ashram and just like thinking, I don't know what people are doing here. And there was this moment where we were just sitting in the back, like along with basically most of the crowd. And my parents were brought to the front to meet Swami Muktananda, I think his name was, or Baba Muktananda. And there was a female who was, oh God, I can't remember her name, but she was incredible. And everyone was like, why did you guys get called up? But this has happened to us our whole lives. No matter where we've been, my mum and dad have always been, whether it's Hindus, whether it's Muslims, whether it's Christians, whether it's Parsis, they've always been brought to the forefront to meet people of a very sort of different kind of, I don't know, just to meet people who are of a very high spiritual caliber. There was Dada Vaswani. He's a Sindhi kind of priest in a way. And the Sindhi community had invited us to some event that they had, and we'd gone. And I'll never forget, again, this man had gone up to my dad, and at the end of meeting him, had said to him, "You don't even know who you are, sir," he said to my dad. And to me, that was a massive wake-up call, because it explained to me a lot as to why my parents were always being kind of taken aside. But my dad was an orphan growing up in India, very tough childhood, but just the most positive person you'd ever meet for the growing up that he had. And me growing up in a one-bedroom flat till the age of 9 or 10, whatever it was, in India, in Mumbai, in Dadar Parsi colony, you know, with 7 of us living in one room, you know, to me, I still sometimes pinch myself and go, oh my God, how am I living in London? And if I ever drive into central London, I have this thing in my head going, oh my God, I'm driving in central London. That is so special. Because to me, that just how different my life is.
Yeah, and how that played out. But then does that not make you think there's so much more to it? And like I said, we are you particularly, quite literally, do the dance of life on this kind of surface level of the outside of the cake, the, you know, kind of all the veneer of it all. But something else is going on. There's a whole other, I don't know, set of rules to life, a set of an operating code, an operating system that someone spiritual, not someone, several someone spirituals do something in your dad or in your family, whether it be a spark, whether it be something you're carrying, whether it be a downline of spirituality that you're connected to, which is now manifesting itself in this man here. But that it's that whole thing, as people do say, spiritual people, you know, they don't see the person, they see kind of light and aura or things like that. That all going on, and maybe because we're all caught up in whether we should get a cockapoo or a labradoodle, or whether, you know, what the traffic's like, or congestion charges, I don't know, or bills or production or schedules, we're missing that thing. I mean, look, I feel something towards you because I just like you. I've watched you all my life, and I know there's a star quality, there's a sparkle, there's a giggle, there's a funny lady. There's a lady, by the way, who doesn't look 53. You know, but there's a warmth to you, and all of those things. But maybe really what others see when they go, I like Nina Wadia. Really, what we're saying is, I see the spiritual. I feel something else. You know, we know when you, but like with any star that you might like, or anyone that you just think there's something about that person. Could it be that being something else? Could
I hope so. I mean, to be honest, that would mean more to me than anything else, because what I've realized as I'm getting older, I mean, I've always known this because my parents have drilled it into me, but what I've really noticed as I've gotten older is living in the present. You know, just be happy with what you have, because it's all given to you and it's all taken away in the same breath. It just is. And don't be upset when that happens. Don't be upset about what's taken away from you. think of how enjoyable it was when you had it. That's the way to live life. You know, just always look at, you know, what do you do with what's in front of you in present. In my 20s, again, I'll be blatantly honest, in my 20s, yes, I was hugely ambitious because I loved performing. I loved the attention. I loved people stopping me in the street, especially after Goodness Gracious Me going, oh my God, we love that. And it just made me feel so excited and so happy. And yes, it fills your ego in a way, because we all have an ego at the end of the day. And that's the truth of it. Some have it in a very negative way, and some have it in a way that's a bit kind of like, oh, that makes me feel kind of special thing, you know. But you realize as you get older, actually, the connections that you have that really matter to you are people that it's not just a hi and bye. It's people that really make the effort, and you have real conversations about doing real things with your life and actually changing people's lives. And it's not just words, there's actions put behind it. But again, that's something that I think you also only learn as you get older. You can't expect someone who's 18 and 19 to understand that. And that's the, you know, thing I have with my kids right now. You know, they've grown up in a generation of Instagram, of this, of that, and whatever. And we've tried really hard. We didn't let our kids get a lot of the social media stuff till much later than other kids. Tia's friends had Instagram by the time they were 8 and 9. Tia wasn't allowed Instagram till she was 15. You know, we were really strict about that. And I'm glad we were, because my daughter doesn't wear makeup to go to school. You know, she doesn't need to. She doesn't have to. She just goes, if she feels like, if she's going out to an event, she'll put it on. But it's not unlike some of her friends, it's quite difficult for them. They don't go to school without putting it on. And to me, that's like, it's so shallow. It's so unnecessary. But again, that's their life. And I can't judge them. If that's what they want to do and that makes them happy for whatever their self-worth is or their esteem is, they need to do that. So it's just guiding whoever you can guide that matters to you, and the rest of the world, you just accept it as it is, and you stay true to your own self. It's difficult though in the industry we're in, Tommy. It's so difficult.
That's exactly what I was going to say. How hard is it for you? And I'm saying this because I'm reading myself as I say this as well. For us to have a kind of a moral compass on things like that, on makeup. I mean, let's say, you know, in a way you could argue again, it's a superficial thing. It's the outside of a person. She's not changing her soul or what she is as a person, but you know, she's conforming to this world that you have raised her in. You now live in London. You know, you're not in India now, where maybe the makeup pressure will be slightly different if you were in the Bind and running around in the fields. But you know, here we are. This is our world. My son, who's 9, is talking about, hey, when I'm 11, do I get a phone when I'm 11? Because other kids have said when they're 11 they can get a phone. And I sort of said to him, I said, if you need a phone, you can have a phone. Because I'm trying to play it cool. I'm trying not to make a thing of it like, you are not having a phone, because I think morally he doesn't need one.
Yeah.
But how hard is it for you to get your moral compass right? Because you've got to be clear on it. You're the parent. Where do you stand on this? And you're also in the game of makeup and showbiz and all those things.
It's a real balancing act. It's being really honest with your children. Now, see, in my day, when I was 16, and you know, I there was a boy I was completely obsessed with, my first love. I snuck out the house at 2 a.m. I was really naughty. I was like, I had a double life. I in fact, years ago, I'd done this little sort of short film called Sita and Geeta, where it was a girl who was really good at home and then just changed her clothes when she went to school, and then she was just out, and she ended up in a strip club. It was that extreme. But the point was, it was so hard, at least at my time, because I was so scared of disappointing my parents, that, you know, and my parents would openly say to me, be honest with us. We'd get less angry if you were just honest. But I said, well, if I honestly said to you, I'm 16 and there's a boy I fancy, are you literally going to go, yeah, sure, go out with him? It's not going to happen, is it? So now I had to find a way to make it work with my kids, you know. And my daughter, she's brought up in the UK. It goes to a school where there's all different cultures. And, you know, the boyfriend, girlfriend thing started to happen at 14 and 15. And it was like literally like hand holding stuff. And you just go, now, if I have a big reaction to this, if I go, oh my God, you held a boy's hand and you're 14, she'd just go, right, I'm out. And I know my kid, she's like me, she's fiery, she'd just do what she wants. what I love is that now at 18, she actually will come to me and go, there's a boy at school's asked me out, and just letting you know, I really would like to go to a movie. I want to go and do whatever. Now she's 18. She could do this without my permission. She doesn't have to ask me. She's an adult. But we've brought her up in a way where she has the respect enough to say, is that okay? I'm going to do that. I'm not going to be home till about 1. And you go, oh, inside I'm absolutely freaking out. But the rule is simple. Bring the guy home. I want to meet this boy. I want to know where he lives. Is what I want to know.
You're like a gangster. I want to know where he lives.
I do. Well, I'm the nice one. My husband terrifies any boy interested, which it's great for me. I'm like, yeah, you be the bad cop, I'll be the good cop, but he's such a nice kid. You kind of go, well, actually you make my daughter nicer to me. So yeah, sure, go out, have a move, go watch a movie, do whatever. But the point is they talk to me, which is something I couldn't do with my kids. With my parents. I couldn't do that. Not again, like I said, it's because I was terrified of disappointing them, because they grew up in such a strict environment that they kind of then wanted to carry that on. And I still need to be a parent. Don't get me wrong. The best balance you can get is your children respect you if you're still a parent to them and you are still strict about values. But here's the golden kind of tip, which again was from my child psychologist. The golden tip is, don't just say no. Explain to them why you think it might not be a good idea and watch their brains go like this. It's a brilliant tip. So instead of me saying to my daughter when she was sort of 16, oh, I want to stay out till 2 a.m, I would go, no, you can't. And we'd have a massive row. I would go, do you really think that's a good idea? Do you think that's a good impression that you might kind of make on other people, that you're that kind of girl, or whatever it was that I could get into her head? Yeah. And it was interesting. At first she'd kick off, but then she'd come back, a couple of hours later, having thought about it, and go, okay, I'll stay till midnight. And then it'd be, can I have a glass of Prosecco? And you just, like, she'd push. Still, there'd be a little push for something. And again, I'd go, 16, I don't know. Is that a good idea, a glass of Prosecco? But you know all the other kids are having 3 bottles of cider after the one glass of Prosecco. So you kind of go, I don't know, I'm torn. So it's walking that fine line.
All right. Should you be your kid's friend? Should you be, because you said you have to be their parent, and so many parents I know will say, oh, I'm my daughter's friend, particularly mums, and and I say young mums like you, because not only are you a young mum, but you're also young in your mind and nature. You are still living a fun life, and you're a cool mum. It must be to have mum on the telly and all those things. So young mum in every aspect will want to be their daughter's friend, particularly their daughter. If you don't mind me saying, maybe more so than your son.
Yeah. It depends. This is the lesson I've learned. I befriended her too young, too early. That's a mistake I made. So by 12, I wanted to be her friend as well as I think. That doesn't work, because the respect doesn't happen, because she then speaks to you like she speaks to her other friends. And that is not healthy. So I think it's a balance. I say, yes, you should befriend your child, but only in the later teen years. Around 16, 17, 18 is when you start to befriend them. Till then, you're their parent. You can still have fun with them, but they need that line. They look for it. And in fact, they kick off sometimes when you befriend them too early, because then they go, but hang on one hand, you're saying, come out, let's do this. On the other hand, you're saying, I can't do it. So which one is it? So I would say, until they're about 15 and 16, be more of a parent. Be 80% parent, 20% friend. Don't give any more than that, because they will take advantage. So that's from experience, I can say that to you. Be their parent, and you will continue to be their parent. But now she's 18, I'm still 10% parent. I will still hold on to that, because she needs that guidance. If she steps past a certain boundary, I need to go, that was not cool. What you did there was wrong. But then they respect that, because you've parented all this way, they respect that. But always be honest, as hard as it is. And I did struggle with this, because our parents weren't, with us. They had so many. I mean, when my mum was in the last stages of her life and she was very ill, and I was 15 at the time, and I was going through a very rough, I was, like I said, I was kind of very hormonal and obsessed. You know, anyway, long story. I almost went wrong there. No, my mum didn't tell me, my parents didn't tell me how ill she was. And I'm angry about that, still a part of me, because I still behaved like a horrible teenager. Had I known that my mum was ill, I would have been a lot nicer at that age. But I guess looking at it from her point of view, she didn't want me to kind of be different to who I was, you know? No. They were protecting me, but actually I wish they hadn't, because I think I had a lot more to say to my mum at that age, you know? And then the years went very quickly and then we lost her. So I realized very quickly, you need to be honest with your kids, you know, at the right age. I wouldn't do it at 9 and 10, but once they get to 13, 14, and they have an understanding of things, if you're honest with your children and explain to them why you don't want them to do something, you'll be surprised how much love and respect you get back. And I think in Indian families particularly, I think there's a lot of, you know, we won't tell the parents this or we won't tell the parents that.
And talking a lot motherhood like that, and the role of your mum, you as a mum, and work schedules. And again, I struggle with this. I guess I'm using you right now just for advice, how to be a better parent via Nina Wadia, and learn from. But I think the best thing we can do is learn from other people and other people's mistakes, or even, like you say in that scenario, your own parents, what they told you and didn't tell you, and how much you will or not tell your children as a result of that. I think that right there is evolution. That right there is progression. That right there is falling forwards, as it's often said. You make a mistake, but you fall forwards from it. You don't fall backwards from it. And how should we go about managing all our workload and still being there for them? Still being there, not only just for your kids, by the way, and both your kids, but your husband as well, for the dog now as well, because you must be, particularly after Strictly as well. Oh, Nina, will you pop on this? Will you pop on that? Fancy coming on the Tommy Sandhu podcast? It's all of that, all the time.
Yeah, it's again, it's balance. It's learning which ones to say yes and no to. So for whatever you see me do, there's 10 things I've said no to doing because I don't have the energy for it, and B, I have no interest in it anymore. My interests have changed as I've kind of grown. I mean, Strictly had come my way in the past, and then when this sort of year came up, I was like, I want to do something a bit different. I want to do that. My fear was, it's reality television, and I'm an actor, and that it's a very scary prospect to go into something like that. It's hugely scary because, unlike acting, you can choose whether, if you get offered the role, you can choose whether you want to do the job or not. This, you get offered the job, and then you have no control over what happens after that. It's just you're part of this big machine, and you just have to go with it. So it's finding all those things. I mean, game shows, I do a lot of game shows because a lot of those are related to how much money you can win for charity. And last year I got so lucky. I never win these things. I would come away with like £500 or something, which is fine. It's still something for the charity. But I did Sitting on a Fortune, Gary Lineker's new game show. Yeah. And I genuinely went in thinking it's going to be one of those again where I'll get close to the end, but then that'll be it. Or I'll go out in the first round. Doesn't matter. I can still try. But then as I got through and then I got to the final, I was like, oh my gosh, I could actually win this. And that's when I started to get really sort of emotional and scared, because I thought, that's £50,000 for something that could change the lives of anyone with type 1 diabetes. I was like, oh gosh, I couldn't breathe. And then I was in the final chair, and the moment happened, and I didn't even know I'd actually won, because the light was either going to be red if it's wrong or green if it's right. But the light went yellow because you win the whole thing, which I wasn't expecting. So when it went yellow, I didn't know what had happened.
Yeah. What does this light mean?
Second, I thought, oh, have I lost it? And then it dawned on me that we've won. And it was just the most exciting phone call to make to JDRF to say, guess what, guys? Yeah. I've got a bit of money coming your way for research.
And how much more do you love The Office now as a result?
Oh, my gosh. At the time when The Office came up, I was so gutted because they took Perfect World off the air. Our show was sacrificed for The Office.
Oh
So
no.
I
Okay.
hated them for that. And now I
And then,
go, okay, I wouldn't have known the answer to that
that's
question.
so. So. Hold a minute. So, because just for anybody who doesn't know, the £50,000 question was which show is celebrating? I think its 20th anniversary, and
Correct.
it
Yeah.
was. Oh, I forget what the other two were, but
It was Gavin and Stacey. It was
that's it.
The Office. It was The Royal Family or Father Ted.
Right, that's it. Right, and so because hold on, because The Office took you off air, you knew roughly when it started, and you
Yeah.
could back time it. That's a Slumdog Millionaire moment. You know when like all the questions have happened for a reason. That's your moment. Like that
Exactly.
was
And
meant to
that's
be,
why
man.
you have to trust that whatever happens to you, it happens for a reason, but you don't know when. You don't know when the answer to that's going to be. I mean, gosh, there's jobs I've had out in America where, I've gone out for pilots and then gone, oh, I didn't get the job and been absolutely gutted and crying and everything. And then the pilot gets picked up. They make 6 episodes and then they drop it. And you go, I would have moved my entire life from the UK to the US on the back of this job and it would have lasted 6 weeks. How embarrassing would that have been as well? You just kind of go, that's why you have, if you're going to actually take the leap and trust in the universe to guide you, then you have to accept the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. And how much? Okay, so where are you at then with the way last year went, with the way Strictly went, and all that? And I know that was tough for you, and I know you didn't want to go out as early as it is. And I worked with Naga Munchetti at the time when she went out from
Yes.
Strictly a few years ago, and she found it hard too because you put everything into it. You're working your butt off all week long, and then there's this moment, and you're a performer. It all comes down to this one little single pinhead in time moment when all this background has gone into it, and that's crazy. That's a crazy
It
ratio of
is.
work to result. Um, all of that, and I know, and really, you're probably really sad because you just want to stay in it and you want to be a part of it and you want to keep doing it.
Well, I
But
love to dance. There's the one thing
yeah,
that I don't know if people know about me, but I grew up in India. I went to Vaijayanti Mala's Bharatnatyam classes, believe it or
oh
not.
wow, wow.
And then in Hong Kong, I loved tap, so I learned how to tap. So I have a dance background. That's my first love. In goodness gracious me, any of the dance sequences you see, including that Gap ad, I don't know if you remember the Gap ad. That was
I
just
do.
me. That's all my choreography. So that's
Brilliant.
what I love to do. So it was gutting. Yes, it was very hard, but then you have to realize you're in a reality TV show. You have no control over what they're going to do. So when you go into reality, you go into it going, this is, I know I'm walking into whatever that lion's den is, and you go with whatever is dealt out. If you don't do that, then it can really destroy you. And when I went out, I was so sad. I was sad because I just wanted to dance. That's all I wanted to do. For me, it's
Yeah.
not about the VTs, about sob stories or this or that. That's not what I'm there for. I'm there to really learn to dance. So the 2 weeks that I had actually dancing with Neil were two of the most fun weeks of my life, because
Yeah.
it was just you kind of realize your limitations because of your age or your ability, but at the same time you realize, oh, I've met another person in my life that I now have as a friend and I'm going to laugh with. So yeah, it's tough, but it depends what mindset you go in with. I think if I'd gone in with a more vulnerable mindset, I would be quite destroyed by the experience. But if you go in going, this is the present, this is the moment, it's going to be a good or bad situation. It ended up being bad for me. The good news was I got 2 more months of doing 2 other new jobs that came my way that
Good.
I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. I did Newark, which is coming out next year with Matt Horn, and Beverly Callard and Morgana Robinson. So it's just, and that was so much fun. That was so much fun. So it's just, you have to always weigh up, okay, this has happened and it's happened for a particular reason for me. Could it have happened because my body was taking a beating, my feet were cut and blistered, my back was killing me. I was like, because when I do something, I do it 100%. So
Of course.
I kind of go, maybe I was saved from, sadly what happened to AJ. She couldn't do the final, to go, all the way to the final and then not be able to perform. I was with Hugo yesterday, and you know, he's in a lot of pain with his back. So there's so many reasons, so many things happen to people, and yes, it was gutting in the moment, but then you reflect on it and you go, okay, it's not the end of the world. You know, I got 2 weeks of great dancing, and I had a blast, and I got to experience fake tan, and I got to, especially as an Indian, to experience fake tan is quite something. And some pretty dresses. Yay!
Yeah, great. Okay, just to finally then, because you talk about contentment and being in the now and taking the good and finding the positive in the good. And I suppose that's an influence probably from your family and also from your husband as well, which is lovely. But when you're out alone, when you're having your downtime, are you well? Are you good? Do you feel content? You feel happy with where things are at? Do you take a moment to kind of go, you know, okay, because I don't want to load the question up too much, because I know you're successful. I see the Nina Wadia career because I'm looking at the highlights, the bits that I see, but I'm seeing obviously what you want me to see, because I've seen the stuff on the telly and things like that. But when you're on your own, are you good with where you're at? Are you happy?
In terms of my family and my actual just life, yes. I can absolutely hand on heart say yes. Where I'm not, and the things that I have to really work on, is the work experience as an actor. And any actor will say this to you. The honest truth is, you always feel like there's something you haven't done, or there's something that you want to do. That's just who we are as actors, because we always, like, in our lifetime, we want to have played every role. That's just who you are. If you love acting, that's what's part of you. What brings me down about the actual industry is the fakeness of it, the injustice of it. When sometimes you go up for a role and you think, I know I didn't get that because I'm brown, and that has happened to me in my career many times. There's the side of the industry that is quite vindictive and nasty and linked to sort of journalism in a very negative way. I don't like that side of it. I don't like the fact that, you know, people can say something about you and you're not there to defend yourself because they just decide to say it and do it publicly. You know, so there are sides of it that you can't control. It's the not being able to control that's very hard. But again, I come back to how do I resolve myself to being okay with this industry and still working in it? And that comes down to how strong your family life is and who you can fall back on and speak to about it. Look, years ago, when I first started in the industry, I met Jamila Massi, I met Saeed Jaffrey, Sudha Bhusha, you know, Shaheen Khan, like Shobu is still a very dear friend of mine as well, Shobu Kapoor. I met, so there was the Jamila Massi generation, then there was the kind of Sudha generation, and then I came in sort of third after that. And what I remember from sort of being around all these amazing women, there was an anger in them, you know, of, we're all talented women, but we never get to hit the spotlight. We never get to do that. Why is that? And the truth of it was, especially at the time they were out, is the color of your skin. It's just the truth of it. It's there's no two ways about it. But you can deal with it either by being bitter and angry and upset, or you can go, I'm going to change it. And I'm going to change it in a positive way. I'm going to show them through my craft and my work that I can be anything and can do anything. But that takes a lot of inner strength. It takes it out of you as a human being, you know? Yeah. And so you fall back on friends and other people. So again, I can't say it enough to people. I cannot say it enough. As hard as anything can be, you have to dig very deep. Mindfulness has saved me in the last 5 years of my life. It's something I've only started practicing in the last 5 years. And I do it every day. I make myself do it. I find, even if it's 4 minutes, 5 minutes, not the full 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. It's having those 5 minutes to say, What am I mindful of? What am I grateful for? What am I thankful for? Because believe me, just putting those good thoughts in your head at the beginning of the day will just give you the strength and the power to get through whatever's coming your way that day. And don't get me wrong, Tommy, we have rubbish days. I had one day where my dog was ill, puked everywhere, diarrhea everywhere. My daughter crashed the car. Work rang me and said that job that you really wanted sadly didn't go your way. And I'm like, and it was only 10:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking,
you're like, anything else? Anything else you want to drop on me? Yeah.
Literally, I do that. I'm sure we all do. We just go, anything else? Just bring it down on me now, please. Go for it. And it's those moments you're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be negative. You're allowed to have a bit of a bitch and a moan about it to your best friends and just go, this is so unfair. But then let it go. It's all about the letting it go and starting the next day fresh. And that's where mindfulness comes in. Just every morning, just even take 30 seconds. It doesn't matter. And just say, these are the good things in my life. Right. Let's have a good day.
Yeah. Look, I think it's great. And okay, then I will now say what I didn't want to say at the start of the question, which is, you are a success story. You have had the roles that have changed people's lives. You have changed the face of comedy. You are the reason, as well as other people in the scene and people that you work with. You have influenced me and many others to do what we do because we saw you on the telly. And I'm a big believer in look-see-do. If you look at it, if you see it, you can do it. That's why we need to have more people representing different pockets of the community and culture on telly and on mainstream, because then you will identify with it. I think it's as simple as that. People are going to go, oh, what? So you think by putting more brown faces on telly, there'll be more brown faces that want to be? I'm like, that's how it works. That's how it works. Because I know it's very simple. When I see my dad working very hard and not taking a day off from work, I work very hard and don't take a day off from work. And my son sees me working out. Hopefully when he grows older, he'll go to the gym and go, well, that's just what we do, because we are simple like that. And therefore we need brown women, black women, people of all walks of life everywhere to reflect life. So you've already smashed it. And I suppose I want to just finish on that and kind of go, so when you do have your moment next and kind of go, I need this job and it would be great to get that. I would just say there's a brother here who's quietly saying, you're doing great, girl, and you've done great. And just from a fan point of view, from a viewer point of view, it's okay. You've done enough.
You're so kind. Honestly, that actually means more to me than anything, because in my mind, I haven't done that. In my mind, I still have a long way to go. I think
and that's okay.
Day. Yeah, no, sorry, go on.
I know. I just want to say, I think we should always have goals, and you should, because game's not. I'm not saying now sit back, relax, and don't lift your feet up and put your feet up and don't lift a finger. No, I'm saying absolutely have goals, but I think we all have to just go. It's cool. You particularly really need to know. If there should be 1,000 people telling you this. But let me then just kind of. I'm telling you, as a fan, as a brother, as someone in the community, as someone in the scene. You've done loads and you've smashed it on loads. You've smashed it at the highest level. But keep flipping, go and take that almost and go get whatever that new role.
Well, I take it and I throw it back. There's I get some lovely emails. There's two examples. One guy called Ayla and one guy called Hamza. They're both massive YouTube stars, and they wrote to me just cold and said, we were so inspired by you and we've written a part for you in the new thing we're doing. Can you do it? And my rule is always, if it makes me laugh, if it's good, I'll do it. Because there's always this line underneath, disclaimer. In fact, actually, I think Hamza actually wrote it as a disclaimer going, no money available, or, something like that, which just made me laugh, because it's not what I'm in it for. If I hadn't been given a chance when I was younger, I wouldn't be getting anywhere. So for me, it's now when people write to me and say, listen, I've done this. My simple rule is I'll always look at a script. I'll always look at a part. I'll always try and help you out. But the condition is it has to be good. I'm not going to do it if I don't believe in it and it's rubbish, because that's where I'm blunt. And that's what you have to be prepared for with me, because I won't do it if it's rubbish. But I will always look at it, because otherwise, how do other people get ahead if they don't have people to say, okay, let me help you out? I'll introduce you to this director. I'll introduce you to that person. You have to give back. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it all? It doesn't make any sense.
No, you're right. But and also, if you're feeling it for a reason. That's your creative spark. That's that spiritual thing. That's that other narrative that's running alongside what we see and what we know. So
and we all have that, Tommy. We all have that. So I and especially women, I always say to women, they go, oh, I wanted to do this. I wanted to be an actor, but actually I work in accounts. And I'm going, if you really wanted to be an actor, you wouldn't work in accounts. You'd really do it. So trust your gut instinct. That's really important. Especially women. I always say this to them, go, oh, I didn't want to walk down that dark alley. Well, then why did you walk down that dark alley? Don't do that. It's like, if your gut is screaming at you, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel right, don't do it. But if it's screaming at you saying, I want to do this with my life. I've had so many women who have literally, especially in their late 40s and 50s, have just gone, you know what, I don't want to do this. This doesn't make me happy anymore. And they've just changed their careers and gone and done their hobbies. I want to be a painter. I want to be this. And there's so much less money coming in the house, but they're so much happier.
Yeah.
It's not about money and greed. Please, just money is nothing in the world. It's nothing.
Yeah. And I agree. I think when we take our last breath, we'll always look back and kind of go, did I laugh enough? Did I love it? Did I enjoy it? Did I rock it? I think you're not going to go, could I have worked an extra shift? I don't think it's what people say. Well, listen, you keep putting in the shifts and you keep doing the things that you love as well, because we love you for it. So thank you for the time, Nina. Appreciate you big time.
No problem. Thanks. So lovely to speak to you. So easy to speak to, Tommy. That's so nice.
God bless. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day.
I heard, genuinely, this is just as a fact, I heard that if you hit subscribe to this podcast now, if you have subscribed on Apple or on Spotify or on JioSaavn or wherever you are listening right now, if you are subscribing and getting that on a regular, which means you get the little notification when the new episode comes out, fact, this is a fact. Don't tell no one else's. If you hit subscribe, you can eat as many jalebis as you want and you will never put on weight. I know. I don't understand the logic. It makes no sense to me. I mean, how's a podcast relate to the DNA way in which your body breaks down jalebi sugar stuff running through your... I don't understand, but what I do know, it's a little cheat to life. So if you like jalebis, then you should hit subscribe to this podcast. Oh, and follow us on social media too. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us, eat jalebis, be happy.